Hello to the Stockhead faithful, good to be back with you after a week off. This week we'll be looking at a rare earth developer in Brazil. First on the markets, and on that rare earth theme, plenty of interest back into rare earths. I did mention this a few months ago with the Chinese restrictions on rare earth exports. So far exports have remained flat in China year on year. Since March, April, May last year, when rare earths sort of hit a bottom around 50 US a kilo, there's been a bit of an uptick in the key rare earths, in particular the magnet rare earths, neodymium, dysprosium, terbium and praseodymium. So as many of you know, these are used in wind turbines, EVs, and more recently in humanoids, which is where we're going to see a big growth in demand, I think, in the next few years. Onto our stock of the week, Brazilian Critical Minerals, ticker is BCM. It's been listed for a while, headed by Andrew Reed, who's had over 30 years in mining, significantly former executive of Paladin, and more recently held a senior management position at the Angabina rare earths project held by Hastings Rare Earths. The project sits in the Apu region of central Brazil. It's called the Emma project. The other rare earth projects that most of you have been following, Meteoric and Veritas, this company hasn't got a lot of airplay, and it's quite an interesting story. It's got a very low enterprise value of around 9 million, around 3.5 million in cash. Interestingly, it's one of the first ISR projects I've seen out of China, ISR in-situ recovery, or in-situ leach as it's sometimes known. More common in the uranium industry, particularly in Africa and the US. Haven't really seen much of it in the rare earth space. There are in-situ leach operations of a sort in China, but this one's interesting. They've done field trials, had a couple of wells using a very weak solution, magnesium sulfate. Completed a scoping study earlier this year, pretty impressive set of numbers. Very low capital cost, 55 million US. Operating cost of around $6.20 a kilo, and producing around 4,800 tonnes of total rare earth oxide and around 1,800 tonnes of magnetic rare earth oxides. A very large global resource, about 943 million tonnes at 716 ppm total rare earth oxide. Significantly pretty high proportion of magnets in there, about 25%. The scoping study metrics are pretty impressive. I mentioned the low capex, pre-tax net present value of over 600 million US, operating costs, as I mentioned, $6.20 US a kilo, and about $17 US a kilo for neodymium and praseodymium. So if you look at some of the comparables, Meteoric, it's about 6 times less capital expenditure and about 9 times less than Aclara. So very low capital cost entry into what could be a 20-year plus mine life at least. So watch this space. There'll be more news coming out as they continue their test work, but as the interest moves back into rare earths, I think this is definitely one to put on the radar. Anyway, thanks for having me. We'll see you again next week.